Hi, everybody. David Dilling here from Markzware. Today we have a special guest on the line, a customer of ours from Florida, Robert Damelio. Robert, I'll throw it over to you. Let me get my window out of the way. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, David. Thank you so much for taking the time to reach out to me.
Well, thank you for taking the time as well. It's a great little story, but we'll get into that in a moment here. Maybe first you can give an introduction to the folks, Robert, who you are and what you do.
Currently based in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm a best-selling author of a book called The Basics of Process Mapping, both first and second editions. That's 2 of 4 books that I've written in the field. I have my own business. The first one I started was in 1988, and the one I'm starting now started last year, but it's kind of in stealth mode. It don't have a website up yet, but that's actively being worked. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me now, just go to LinkedIn or Google my name. Either one, that always works.
Right, and up here in the corner, you see how the spelling goes in the Skype window. But what's your background in graphic design? Because obviously you're using the Markzware products. How long have you been involved with the graphic design?
Okay, so what got me started was, for those of people of a certain age, there used to be something called desktop publishing. And there used to be a couple of software packages that were invented to make that possible. One was called Aldus PageMaker. The other one, what I should point out, I use Apple Macintosh. So one was Aldus PageMaker, and the other one was called Quark, I think. And now it's called QuarkXPress, I think.
Right.
But so I got involved with that because of a coworker in a shared office space environment. And he said, "What are you using PageMaker for?" And I said, "Because I've got a desktop." He said, "Oh, you should use Quark here. Let me show you stuff." He was an expert in Quark. This is, late 80s, early 90s maybe. So I got involved because I was doing custom learning materials for Fortune 500 clients. And they wanted both facilitator guides and participant guides. And of course, we had process activities and feedback activities. We did all that stuff for a number of Fortune 500 companies that would be household names.
Right. And so you're using Quark and you were actually, you had designers helping you, I guess, right?
For the graphics part, yes. Not, but a couple, 2-3 years into it, after my business was growing a little bit, I said, wow, I really need someone that's skilled in the areas that I'm not, and I was not skilled in graphics. I was very skilled in visualizing graphic concepts, and still am, but no artistic skill whatsoever.
Right.
And for a guy in process mapping, he's like, wait a minute, that's all visual. Yes, it is. and for the longest time, Visio did not exist.
Right.
And so we had to use a program called Markzware, if you remember.
Yeah.
This is by Clara Software,
Yeah.
which is Apple's software company. That's ancient history for most of your audience.
Yeah. Now Visio, we can make all those cool shapes and
Yeah.
And I didn't realize all those shapes have a meaning in your world. Let's say,
They really do, and it's even more so with something called a value stream map. Value stream maps have a rich set of icons. I prefer to call them icons rather than symbols, but everybody else,
Right.
There's a reason why
semantics.
We won't go into that for this video.
Right. But before we jump into the Markzware side, what is the name of your book, The Basics of Process Mapping, but what exactly is, I think I know what process mapping is, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you could tell us.
Okay, so it's kind of a general term for visual representations of work. So a flowchart is an example, a cross-functional process map, or a swim lane diagram, some people call it. That's the biggest example that most people are familiar with. In my book, I cover flowcharts, cross-functional process maps, and something called relationship maps. And those are a higher level of abstraction than a process map because you're not getting into detailed steps with a relationship map. So there's three different kinds of maps in there. But the big part of the book that most people don't even know about and wouldn't even think to look at is in the second edition especially, I added a whole bunch of stuff on application of lean thinking principles and practices to the improvement of knowledge work.
Right.
And this was done 2011. So the timing that I've done, all my client work was knowledge work, and it started in 1988. So I've been doing this long. Lean didn't even get introduced in the United States until right around 1988. So, I've been doing things longer than they had names for them.
Right. Common sense that you want to map out these processes.
Exactly. And the thing about a process map, and the key point about that, no matter, or a Gaussian map for that matter, is you got to get the people to do the work in the room to create it. What it does is it facilitates establishment of common meaning among the natural work group. And the natural work group are people that perform the job if they don't know. But that's what I call them, and that's the power of process thinking or systems thinking in general.
Right. And I think that, basically process mapping is a big part of, I think, for graphic designers, because they get projects from corporates and they have to visually explain concepts that they're thrown at them, and they have to now, so I think it kind of ties together very directly.
Yeah. It's also a big part of IT projects for a lot of organizations, because they need to establish the boundaries where one process starts and stops.
Right.
And then a lot of people are taking that stuff and converting it into something called BPM notation. So business process management notation. Those are different. That's a different symbol set. I don't work in that area.
Okay, that's another specialty. Yeah.
But process maps are an input to that often. Right.
I'll give a link to the Amazon link that I have. If you have a better link, you can send it to me with the book, because it's very. Yeah. You have a bunch of ratings. You have a lot of great ratings. It's a 4.5 out of 5-star rating, which is very good on Amazon.
After 10 years to still be there, I feel very fortunate.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, good job. Okay, let's now jump back into the Markzware side. So at a certain point, you have all these old Quark and Illustrator files, I guess is what I learned later. But how did you find out about Markzware? Why did you look for Markzware?
That's the great question. I wasn't looking for Markzware. I was looking for a way to open 30 years of client files.
Right.
That when I closed my first business, I had all the files, but they had been compressed first, zipped, if you will.
Right.
And so I had a whole bunch of files I couldn't access. I didn't even know what was used to zip them. So I had major issues for a long time. It was very frustrating. Clients had all the masters, so that was not an issue. But it was an issue for me, because I thought, I'd like to reuse some templates. I'd like to reuse, these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And, the way I came across your excellent product that I recommend to anyone that has finds themselves in a similar situation, or just a need to convert Quark files into Adobe InDesign, which I had come across Adobe InDesign. I read a little blurb on it, and it said opens Quark files. I'm like, ooh. So then, but that's true to a point, because it only goes back so far.
Right.
And I went, ooh, I'm excited. No, I'm not. Didn't work. So then I said, I did a Google search, and I said, will InDesign open Quark files? Boom, up pops listing for Markzware, and it says, this application is designed to open Quark files, and then you can convert them into InDesign. And I went, oh, that might be something. So I got there, tried it, and I didn't want to get excited, because this is, it's been 20 years I've been trying to do this. It took like 5 seconds or less. Boom, I could see the file, and I said, well, maybe it was a fluke. So I tried it on another. Boom, I could see the files. I went, oh my God. And then that's when I quick wrote you a note. I said, you know, this is, you wouldn't believe how excited I am about finding this and what it can do.
Yeah, I very recently discovered the YouTube video of you and Laurie Ruhlin discussing QXPMarkz. I've been searching off and on for 15 years for something that could allow me to access long ago work products that were primarily Quark and Illustrator files. I am more than delighted to find out that the software does just what I was looking for. I've done a Google search to see if Adobe InDesign can open Quark files. That's how I found out about the wonderful products you offer. If you were a Klingon, they would sing your name in song. I'm happy to leave a review, etc., etc. Geek Squad should know about Markzware. We agree. Apple business folks should as well. We also agree. And lastly, the part about finally, I bought a Creative Cloud license from Adobe as a direct result of your software, OmniMarkz. Very interesting. Because you found us by a YouTube video, right? Another YouTube video.
Well, the Google search pulled up a video. It was a video of you and a person that you've used or worked with before, whose business is to create InDesign documents. Laurie Ruhlin.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful person.
Absolutely.
Very talented. I had a chance to both look at her portfolio and speak with her on the phone on a video call, but it wasn't Skype.
Yeah, that was another discussion. Yeah.
But yeah, it was the YouTube video, and I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this video and see what the deal is. And I watched it, and I saw the click, and I went, oh, it can't be that easy. Because I've been trying this so long. I had just talked to the Geek Squad. I paid, I just joined them and paid for Total Tech membership. And I said, look, do you guys have any ideas on this? Nope. So I went, after I saw your thing, and then I saw what you know. I said, well, you ought to reach out to the Geek Squad because they should know this stuff. They sell Apple hardware and software, and Quark, and some of their customers have got to have experienced this. And so you told me your stuff is all word of mouth, which is why I'm so happy to be able to do this video for you.
Thank you. Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah. No, that's right. I mean, some of these big entities, they sometimes don't take the time to understand some of the small gems that are out there, like Markzware, and there's other examples of that. For instance, we also fix bad InDesign files. So if InDesign and Quark files, so if they go corrupt and they don't open anymore in your native application, what do? Well, we actually have about a 85% recovery rate of bad files. But if you call Adobe or Quark, or they don't recommend that to the customer. You have to find that on Google or on a forum.
It takes how do I say this? First, it was, when I first ran into this problem, I did every kind of research I could. But this was a long time ago.
Right.
It was pre-internet, right? It was, people go, what? How can that happen?
There was a time, pre-internet.
It was pre-internet. And desktop publishing existed before the internet.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And so, but anyway, so, I would try to find a way to do it, get frustrated, say, okay, I'll come back to this later. 2 years later, I'll try again. 2 years later, I'll try again.
Right.
Now the technology, I didn't even connect the fact that, I bet they can do that now. I was still thinking, okay, because of the little blurb I saw in InDesign, if I hadn't gone to InDesign and InDesign hadn't said, we can open Quark files, I never would have done the Google search and I never would have found you.
Right.
That's I went through.
Right. Okay, great. So now you obviously were looking for Quark to InDesign. We have a product called QXPMarkz for Quark to InDesign. And we have a product called IDMarkz for InDesign to IDML or to other file formats.
To bidirectional traceability kind of things we call it.
Right. Sounds good. and we have PDFMarkz for PDF to InDesign because PDF does not import native PDF files. You can place them, but you can actually convert them with live text and layers. So we have these three products and we bundled them into OmniMarkz, which is what you ultimately purchased. Now, why did you purchase OmniMarkz instead of QXPMarkz?
Okay, so when I used the QXPMarkz first to open up my Quark files, it showed Adobe Illustrator files, and I went, yeah, so I need something to do that too. And then I saw that you had something, and it was just bundled together, and I thought, well, I don't need to get all this stuff. I'll just get the bundle, because I have PDFs, I have Illustrator files, and I have Quark files.
And you'll have InDesign files in the future too. So
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but God willing, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. What Robert did is we have a freebie version of all of our products, which will preview only the Quark file in QXPMarkz, the InDesign file in IDMarkz, or an OmniMarkz that previews all the files, all the DTP files we support.
Right. So I used the QXP first.
Right.
And that's what showed me basically the inventory of the digital assets, is what I would call them these days.
Yeah.
And once I saw that, I went, okay, so I'm gonna need Creative Cloud stuff, to be able to work with both Illustrator and InDesign, and maybe even PDF stuff. Although PDF stuff, I'm finding is incredibly limited. If you want to do what I want to do with it, which is modify and use it. I've saved a ton of my stuff as PDFs. And on Apple, when you click on a PDF file, it uses something called Preview to open it up.
Right.
Or you can start doing things with that, but it's not ideal.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted the ability to be able to make interactive documents, whether it's a form, what I would call a job aid, or something would go on a website, things like that. So,
well, an idea would be take some of your Visio PDFs. I'm sure you have some of those laying around.
All of the PDFs.
And I'm curious how they convert with our PDFMarkz or OmniMarkz into InDesign, or for that matter, into whatever other program you want to convert it to. Whether it's.
I have not tried it with Visio file. I should do that.
Yeah, I'm curious, and please share me a PDF or two, just apart from this interview. But interesting.
I'll do it with Visio, because that'd be another great thing.
Yeah, it could be. I'm sure there'll be some touching up, but at least it'll get you like a head start on things.
Yeah, I failed spectacularly at being retired.
Okay.
And so I said, that was a part of the impetus that said, okay, I am going to get those files open one way or another. I'm going to use those files one way or another, and nothing's going to stop me. And there we go.
And you did it with the help of Markzware and Laurie.
I did it. Maybe I don't even have to start the business because I did the files, right?
Right. Interesting. Right? Yeah. And there's still lots of Quark users out there, although InDesign is now the king. But a lot of big publishers and big publishing, governments and corporations that have a QPS, Quark Publishing System workflow, they continue to use that.
Okay.
So there's a surprising number. Yeah. But
and that's what I've always been pulled by my clients in whatever direction they need in order for their workflows to be effective. Because for the last, I learned that early on. You're a small business and you're working with a Fortune 500 company. They have ways of doing things, and each one's different, of course, from company. But fortunately, I'm a fast learner, and I pick up on that stuff.
Right. Yeah, you got to get in their culture real quick, otherwise.
Oh yeah, no guts, no glory, right?
That's right, and we have Zoom or Skype, So
exactly. I mean, the hybrid work model, the remote work model, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that in my business before those capabilities existed.
Well, probably with your mapping out. I mean, a good friend of mine, he worked for a large corporation worldwide, and they had all their IT based in Paris, but he was in the Netherlands. But all the IT was in India.
Right. Yes.
So this whole process, and that was all mapped out, but it was an intricate, worldwide. A lot of Skype before this whole Corona thing,
I will tell you, that is an excellent application for a cross-functional process map. It shows there's a swim lane for each well, I call them entities, but wherever the work is done, or whoever the work does it, it's a swim lane. So if it's India, you'd have India, you'd subdivide whatever the roles are, and, as you would see in my book.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I'll put a link to the book. I really appreciate your time, Robert. But I always ask everybody. I already know the answer, but of course, it's good to get the soundbite, as they say. Yeah. Would you recommend Markzware OmniMarkz to people considering buying it?
I couldn't recommend it highly enough.
Excellent.
Had I had it sooner, everything would have changed sooner.
Excellent. Well, Robert, I really appreciate your time and learning more about what you do and your book, and very interesting stories. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome. And if I can ever do anything for you, if you need a referral, recommendation, just reach out. And
just so people know, I'll show on the screen right now. I'm just going to put right up. You won't be able to see it, but I'm showing right now the Amazon link to your book, The Basics of Process Mapping, second edition.
Yep.
And you can see right here all the ratings, and you can check it out right there. Probably they have a free chapter somewhere down there. I don't know.
On my LinkedIn profile, you can get a free chapter.
Okay, and over here on LinkedIn is, let's see, it's loading here. Oh, there we are. There's Robert's LinkedIn, and you can check him out over there. All right, Robert, once again, thank you so very much.
It's my pleasure, David.
All right, take care.